America's best days are yet to come. That's because conservatives like you know and live the values our great country was built on. The Heritage Foundation exists to make sure your voice is heard in the D.C. swamp each day, shining the light on a bright future. The Heritage Foundation stands for your values and won't give up the fight because they know you never will. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Well, happy final moments of Rosh Hashanah to my Jewish friends. That's why I wasn't here last week. I was in the state of Israel. Long agreed to a event there. Marco Rubio was there. The Prime Minister was there. A number of great people were there. The city of David. I won't get into all the details, at least not right now. But a lot was going on when I wasn't here, wasn't it? And I want to thank all the wonderful folks who stepped in and stepped up and were great hosts on the program, from what I understand, and they're great people. They really are great people. Now, I watched much of the Charlie Kirk memorial funeral. And I thought the speeches were fantastic, except for one. I think Erica Kirk is a remarkable young lady. Absolutely remarkable. I always want to listen when she speaks. You can tell she's a woman of deep, deep faith. And you can tell she's been for a long, long time. And I want to tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, as an American and as a Jew, I am thrilled with these revivals. I am thrilled with Christians finding their faith and practicing their faith. I am thrilled about it. Thrilled about it. We talk about Judeo-Christian values for a reason. The founders of your country talked about Judeo-Christian values. They embraced them. They talked about the Hebrews. They talked about Jesus. Over in Israel, I rarely go beyond the holy sites because that's what I love. That's what I enjoy. My family, too. And who's protecting Christian holy sites? From the Islamists, the Palestinian Muslims. Who's protecting them? The Jewish IDF and police. That's who. Who goes into Syria to protect the Christians, among others? We have an envoy, a guy named Tom Barrett, who's a fool, a buffoon. The Israeli Air Force and infantry go into Syria to try and protect the Christians. And yesterday, the Syrians were burning, again, Christian towns. You didn't hear that on any of the networks, did you? You didn't hear it from any news show, did you? Because apparently, to them, it doesn't matter. To them, it doesn't matter. I can't speak for every Jew, but I grew up around Christians. I have friends who are Christians, best friends who are Christians. And we are very close, including Pastor John Hagee, one of the great evangelical Christians of our time or ever, with his megachurch in San Antonio, Texas. He was at the City of David last week as well, as was his family. It was a Jewish Christian celebration, among others, over the beginnings of both faiths, linked in the Bible. And yet there are people who seek to come between us. These aren't people of faith. These are people who try to exploit faith. These are people who don't even comprehend faith. And so now we're back to the old blood libel. The old blood libel, because it comes up by Carlson during what was an absolutely beautiful memorial service for our friend Charlie Kirk. Now, I want to tell you something. I don't know where this is going. I don't know where this Jew hatred from the Marxists, the Islamists, the neo-Nazis, the grifters, I don't know where they're pulling us and pushing us. What do they want to do with American Jews? What do they want to do? Where are they taking this country? They're destroying it. Carlson, Owens, Kelly, Bannon, the rest of them, and others. They're relatively small voices, this is true. But the left-wing media give them platforms, quote them all the time, promote them all the time, because they think they're getting at you and me, red-blooded and patriotic Americans who love this country. And so they want the rest of the world to believe, the rest of our country to believe, that these are MAGA. Donald Trump is the greatest friend of Israel in the Oval Office in the history of that country and this country. Is that where the people I just mentioned stand? Of course not. They stand with Bernie Sanders and Tlaib. That's who they stand with. They stand with the Jew haters and the Marxists and the Islamists. And why aren't more of our elected leaders speaking out against this? With few important exceptions. Why is Carlson being platformed? Being platformed by some of our leaders. What is that all about? Well, I know what it's all about. And so I've decided, you and I have been through a lot of important political revolutions and movements. In fact, we started many of them, but not all of them. The Reagan Revolution, the most massive landslide victories in modern history. The Tea Party movement, started by you, with me, Liberty and Tyranny. Our rallies, our millions of people turning out, throwing out the Democrats in the House of Representatives, giving the Republicans an over 60-vote majority. They'd never seen anything like this. You and me nominating Cruz and Rubio and Mike Lee and God knows how many others in the House and the Senate. who are there right now because of you and me. Mostly you. The Convention of States, under the radar, but millions and millions of us who have turned legislature after legislature around in support of resolutions to save this country financially and otherwise through Convention of States. In my book, The Liberty Amendments, I've counted. I've sold 15 million books over the course of my career. It's stunning because of you. And MAGA. We've got this little clan, and by clan I mean clan, who claim credit for 77 million plus votes for Donald Trump. Podcasters. Some of whom hated Donald Trump, despised Donald Trump, brutalized Donald Trump, used the most foul words against Donald Trump in texts, in speeches. Now they say they're Make America Great Again. I'm going to tell you this. There's only one Donald Trump. And there will only be one Donald Trump in our lifetimes. He is a great, great man. He is a great leader. What he did at the United Nations today was unbelievable, and I'm going to get into that. Absolutely stellar. I've never seen anything like it before. And guts. The man has courage like you can't imagine. Like you can't imagine. But after Donald Trump, all bets are off. Some people think they have the inside lane to the presidency. Well, you know what? We constitutional conservatives don't believe in coronations, do we? You got to fight for it. And your associations matter. And your past statements matter. And whether or not you're a leader or a statesman matters. And it's going to be bruising. Because some of these dumb bastards like Carlson, they've awakened. They've awakened a sleeping giant. People of faith want nothing to do with Holocaust deniers. People of faith want nothing to do with out-of-the-closet, full-throated Jew haters. People of faith want nothing to do with individuals who try to steal their faith, Christianity, and use it to advance the causes of the Islamists, use it to advance anti-Americanism, use it to attack the greatest generation and the victories in World War II. We're not putting up with this. We're not tolerating this. None of us. You don't trash Christians and Jews and American soldiers on the battlefield in World War II. You don't make excuses for Hitler and smear Churchill. You don't platform Holocaust deniers and sympathize with Qatar and Iran and Putin and think that you represent the people of the United States. Hell, that's not Trump. That's not Reagan. That's sick. That is sick. Charlie Kirk was a great young man. You see a lot of people talking about Charlie Kirk. I probably knew him better than most because he came to me before there was this big Turning Point USA. And I've used this platform to promote a lot of young conservatives, including Ben Shapiro. Dan Bongino, not as young as the others, same thing. And I can go through a long list because that's what I do. That's what I believe. When I see smart people, when I see motivated people who can help save the country, who write, who think, who speak well, I support them. I'm not jealous. I don't tear them down. I don't look to sabotage their careers. I look to help them because that's what I do. Because one day I won't be here either. All of us are going somewhere at some point, right? But I'll be damned if after fighting in the Reagan Revolution, in the Tea Party movement, I'll be damned if they're fighting for the Constitution and Convention of States. I'll be damned if you and me fighting for Donald Trump's election fiercely, if I'm going to surrender the future of this country to neo-Nazis, to Marxists, to Islamists, to Jew haters, to Christian haters, to American haters, whether they're dressed up on the right or the left, whether they're wearing a kippah or a suit, it doesn't much matter to me. And they are going to feel our wrath. It's just a matter of time. Because they've pissed off red-blooded Americans who love their country, love their faiths, and love their fellow Americans. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, I have a question for you. Do you believe America's best days are still ahead? With the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in less than a year, my friends at the Heritage Foundation are taking stock of the current situation, and they need your input. They've launched a survey on America's future to gauge how Americans feel right now about where we are as a nation and where we're headed in the next 250 years. You know, for decades, your American values have been under attack, but now, with President Trump's administration in office, we have an opportunity to turn the tide and usher in a new golden age for America. But the Heritage Foundation needs to hear from you. What policies do patriots like you most care about? What do you believe are the defining principles of America? What legacy do you believe we should pass on to the next generation? Please visit heritage.org/Levin today and share your feedback and help shape the future of America. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. You know, ladies and gentlemen, there was only one thing where Charlie and I disagreed. Only one. And that was on the bombing of the nuclear sites in Iran. I backed the president. It wasn't me convincing the president, it was me supporting the president. The cabal opposed him, trashed him, stabbed him in the back. They said it will cause World War III. They said Russia and China and others would intervene. They went on and on and on and on. They lied. They weren't wrong. They lied because they hate our country. Charlie's not one of them. He was never one of them. But Charlie was a peacemaker. He was trying to be a uniter, trying to pull conservatives together. And after the president did what he did to tremendous success, and notice we don't hear the Iranians talking about death to America anymore. We don't sit here anymore in fear that they're going to have a nuclear weapon. Because Israel did what it did, and the president of the United States did what he did. They didn't drag us into a war. The president prevented from us being subject to nuclear blackmail in a war. And Charlie texted me afterwards and said, you know what? Let's all get behind the president. You were right about this. How about that? That was it. I'll be right back. We're coming upon the 250th birthday of the United States, and it has me thinking, what will America look like 250 years from now? My friends at the Heritage Foundation want to know what you think. What policies should America prioritize? What principles should carry us into the decades ahead? As America enters a new golden age, Heritage recognizes that this is the time to take stock and to be intentional about how we shape the future of America. And they can't do it without your input. So please go to heritage.org/LEVIN and let them know what you think is important. Without patriots like you stepping up and speaking up for what you believe in, America as we know it can't survive for another 250 years. Please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/LEVIN. Take the survey on America's future future. This survey takes less than 10 minutes to complete, but it is critical for making sure that the America we pass on to future generations is an America we're proud of. Go to heritage.org/Levin today. That's heritage.org/Levin. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Mark Levin, tough as hell.
That's why I like Mark Levin. And I'm not sure a lot of people like him. He's tough as hell. But I like him. I love him.
Call in now. 877-381-3811.
Where have all these great people been during the battles you and I have fought against the Republican establishment over the decades? These people are in their late 40s, 50s, 60s. Where have they been? What have they done to earn anybody's trust or favor? They don't even back our sitting president, Donald Trump. They don't back him. They don't support what he does with Israel, with Iran. It's okay to have a difference of opinion with the president, but at a time of war, when he decides to attack nuclear sites, you give aid and comfort to the enemy? It's okay to criticize him over foreign policy issues, domestic policy issues. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about giving aid and comfort to the enemy, to Putin, a KGB assassin, a genocidal maniac, to Iran, to Hamas. That's not us. That's not you and me. You go to any diner in this country, in any neighborhood in this country, with any race. They don't believe this. Red-blooded Americans. Red-blooded Americans. I think the more people who move to their faith, Christianity, Judaism, and other faiths that have gone through the Reformation, and other faiths that embrace the Enlightenment, the stronger we are, the clearer things become. Revivals across the country are a great thing. That's not these people. They're grifters. What have they ever done for their church? What have they ever done, period? The Tea Party movement, where were they? They were nowhere. Nowhere. Some of them were, I'm wrong about that. Oh, they were in TV. Or they were writing for a magazine. You see, I do things differently behind this microphone. I'm an activist. I'm mission-oriented. Because that's what I do. I didn't even seek to become a radio host or a TV host. That's all these people have ever done, sat on their fat asses. And they've gone from being conservatives to neoconservatives to paleoconservatives, now to sympathizers with Islamists and Marxists and Jew haters. They've been on the big networks, they've been on other cable channels, and now they're out on their own, you see, because they're really entrepreneurs. They have figured out they need a niche. The crazier their asses are, the more people will follow them. But not enough. Not we the people. We the people. The policemen and the firefighters. The men and women in the military and veterans. The plumbers and the electricians, the truck drivers. The long list of people who make this country work. We're a special breed. We've seen their likes come and their likes go. And we will be responsible for ensuring that they never have the power that they seek. And more people are speaking out now. More and more people have had enough. You want to ensure the permanent power of the Islamist Marxists, the Democrat Party that hates this country, that seeks to destroy this country, then you get behind these people. Get behind them. Get behind the Carlsons and the Kellys and the Owens and all the other reprobates and miscreants. Go ahead, get behind them. You'll be on the wrong side of history, I assure you. I assure you. Isaac Shore, I've never been a fan of this gentleman who writes for the New York Post and Mediaite, wrote for National Review and so forth and so on. But I got to give credit where credit is due. And that's what I do. Apart from his slap against Donald Trump, which he just can't seem to get over, others too, about 2020. He says, what will follow President Trump's reign over his party is yet to be seen. It's true that Trump has flouted long-standing conservative orthodoxy on trade and certain foreign policy issues. Yet much of his agenda could have been advanced by any number of Republicans to run against him in 2016 and 2024. Trump's popularity and unique hold over his party is attributable largely, though not solely, to his indomitable, one-of-a-kind personality, which endeared him to millions long before he ever ran for office. The ideological meaning of his rise, though, is still up for debate. And I've argued that he's one of the most conservative presidents we've ever had, with serious exceptions, but so what? And that means, he writes, as Fox News' Mark Levin observed on Monday, that come 2028 and Trump's retirement from presidential politics, there will be a bloody, epic-shaping war for the soul of the GOP. And he quotes me in my post. I'm gearing up for a massive political battle in 2028 within the GOP. We will see who turns out the most votes and who builds the strongest coalitions. And then there's the general election, which cannot be won without us. That means you in this audience. We constitutional conservatives, who were crucial in the Reagan coalition, the Tea Party movement, Convention of States, and MAGA, have been awakened like never before. You know, ladies and gentlemen, you have podcasters out there who've never bent a finger in the name of victory and freedom domestically. They've done nothing. And we will be heard from one end of the country to the other. We've had enough of the grifters and the neo-Nazis, the Marxists and the Islamists, and their patsies and lapdogs in the media and politics. They're destroying our country. They reject Trump and Reagan and our founding, and we reject them. And Isaac Shore writes, he's right. This conflict, unlike so many of those fought over the last decade, will not be about Trump or even his legacy. Both Levin and his intra-party enemies, perhaps best exemplified by his former Fox News colleague. What Fox News colleague? I never really knew Tucker Carlson when I was at Fox. Never socialized with the guy. Never shook his hand. Never saw his flesh. My Fox News colleague. And frequent sparring partner Tucker Carlson are agreed, at least publicly, he writes, on Trump's merits. No, this war is poised to be fought over the fundamental rather than the fleeting. The years leading up to and especially since his dismissal from Fox, Carlson has championed a nihilistic brand of right-wing politics that bears little resemblance to pre-2016 conservatism and increasingly diverges from Trump's worldview as well. That's a fact. His Republican Party would be more bitter, less conservative than Reagan's GOP, as well as more conspiratorial and vindictive than Trump's. Behind every act or event, Carlson sees nefarious forces, usually Jews, pulling the strings. He promotes an inauthentic, self-serving Christianity used as a vehicle for advertising his own victimhood of Jews' villainy. America itself, by his telling, is both the world's principal victim and villain, a country that should step aside and allow its competitors a turn at the helm, for its own good, of course. Propagandizes on behalf of malicious actors across the globe, from Soviet wannabes to modern slave states to death to America chaining jihadists. He entertains the very painful branded 9/11 conspiracy theories he once excoriated. Cultural victories achieved by conservatives at home are downplayed. Fatalism over losses is automatic. His party, in other words, is one that is not just less likely to win, but would do immense damage to not just the country state at home and standing abroad, but its very character should it prevail. He will destroy the Republican Party for decades. That's what he'll do. For decades. I'm no fan of the Republican establishment. I was fighting it when he was in the Republican establishment, ladies and gentlemen. I was fighting neocons when his father was a neocon. And by the way, a very nice man. In 2028, this party will no doubt be represented in the primary contest by Vice President J.D. Vance, whom Carlson has already identified as his horse, and has emerged as leading purveyor of Carlson's ideas within the Trump administration. He will enjoy the advantage of entering the race as Trump's sitting right-hand man and natural successor. On the other side, there is tenuous but potentially powerful coalition waiting to be formed. The Trump years fractured the Reaganite wing of the GOP, some of which claims Trump as the Gipper's natural successor, the rest of which views Trump as a violent departure from him. I'm just telling you what he's writing. There's no longer any room for such fractures. The president is lame duck. Over the next 3 years, he will do good and bad, he writes, and perhaps good or bad, depending on which group you belong to. Inevitably, President Trump will continue to loom over and wield great power. But at 82, he'll be term limited, and the largest footprint he'll have left on the Republican Party will be tonal rather than ideological. For those who recognize Carlson and his cohort for what they are, this will be the last opportunity to come together to stop them. Prior differences over Trump or any picayune dispute cannot be allowed to stand in the way of this all-important objective. Because as Carlson demonstrated so vividly at Sunday's memorial for Charlie Kirk, it's not just those they hate that stand to suffer if the nihilists come on top. During a nationally televised celebration of his friend's life, Carlson took the time to wink at the dregs of society by making a comparison between Charlie and Jesus, both of whom he implied had been murdered by Jews. To describe Carlson's words is to be shocked by them. The assassination of a friend and the sacrifice of God's only Son, both reduced in a matter of a few breaths to fuel for an ancient evil, was a soul-destroying act, one that articulates the stakes of 2028 better than anyone else ever could. It won't just be a war for the soul of a movement, but a spiritual one with the survival of real individual souls online. And this is what he writes as his opinion. Look, I don't run the world. I don't run the country. I can only say what I believe and what I think. As a red-blooded American, as a nation that we, the people who work hard and pay the taxes, the people who built this country, and our parents and our grandparents who built this country, who fought for this country, who went to war for this country. I am not going to allow a handful of Lilliputians, of miscreants, of grifters grab the reins without a battle. We've talked about this before. When you look at most revolutions around the world, Marxist revolutions, fascist revolutions, they're led by a minority. I don't mean an ethnic minority. I mean a minority in terms of numbers. Not the majority. A minority. I'm mindful of this. I am mindful of this. What they don't understand is we love our country. What they don't understand is we love our fellow Christians and Jews and others of other religious faiths who embrace our country. We're not at war with them. They're our neighbors. They're our friends. We're not the Islamists. We're not going to turn Christianity into the mindset of the Islamists. We're not going to turn Judaism into the mindset of the Islamists. We're capitalists and entrepreneurs. We're not Marxists or quote-unquote democratic socialists. And yet, the people who I describe, and more, they're not of the right. They sound like they're of the left. When I come back, I want to deal with this Jimmy Kimmel crap, too. I've been grinding my teeth as he turns into Rosa Parks or Mahatma Gandhi, this fat slob Democrat hack who they're wrapping in free speech when Charlie Kirk was murdered, assassinated for speaking. And he mocked his assassination by essentially claiming that the people who support and love Kirk were behind it. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, I have a question for you. Do you believe America's best days are still ahead? With the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence coming up in less than a year, my friends at the Heritage Foundation are taking stock of the current situation, and they need your input. They've launched a survey on America's future to gauge how Americans feel right now about where we are as a nation and where we're headed in the next 250 years. You know, for decades, your American values have been under attack, but now, with President Trump's administration in office, we have an opportunity to turn the tide and usher in a new golden age for America. But the Heritage Foundation needs to hear from you. What policies do patriots like you most care about? What do you believe are the defining principles of America? What legacy do you believe we should pass on to the next generation? Please visit heritage.org/Levin today and share your feedback and help shape the future of America. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation. I've posted 3 times in the Jimmy Kimmel farce. Let me underscore what I've last said. This Kimmel suspension was never a battle over free speech or government control of speech. He was initially dropped because he's a loathsome punk who made a highly inappropriate comment about the political assassination of Charlie Kirk. It is Charlie Kirk who was murdered because of his speech. It was Charlie Kirk who was murdered to silence him. Did Kimmel talk about any of that? No. Instead, he lied. He blamed Kirk's supporters for his murder. Certain types of speech do have consequences. Employers can and do fire employees for things they say. Each case and circumstance needs to be examined on its own. But there's no broad brush corporate immunity for Kimmel, as some seem to suggest. What happened was that ABC initially dropped him because of the immediate backlash and revulsion at Kimmel. Affiliates dropped the show. None of the broadcast companies are required to carry his show. The chairman of the FCC had no role in any of it, no matter what he said or when he said it. So there's no First Amendment at issue, no government intervention, despite the best efforts to concoct one. Now, ABC's Democrat boss, Iger, who's all but destroyed Disney, he's bringing Kimmel back, not because of some massive pressure from the wider audience. His ratings suck, and they're going to keep sucking. He will remain an awful host. And the 2 largest affiliate companies are not going to air him. They just announced it. So there's no financial reason or incentive for his return. On the contrary, he's being brought back because he's a liberal propagandist loved by the Democrat Party hacks and the pressure they brought on ABC. Let's be clear. We're constitutional conservatives who believe in free speech. It's crucial to countering the government and those in power. It's crucial to sharing information so we can all make decisions as a people. I've written about it often, including in my current book, an entire chapter on power. Every true patriot should believe in it and defend it, and all of you do. This has nothing to do with that, nothing. Indeed, it's twisted to argue that Kimmel, who used his national corporate network platform to lie about the assassination of Charlie, is a victim of anything but his own hatred and narcissism. If ABC had stuck to its original decision and kept him off the network, he would have many avenues to continue to spew his poison. Nobody's stopping him. But it's like me saying, hey, ABC News doesn't platform me. They're violating my free speech. Now, how stupid would that be? This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Welcome back, America. Thanks for tuning in. Number is 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. The president was unbelievable today. He's always unbelievable. But at the UN, does this guy have guts or what? Confronts these people, tells them they're destroying their countries, goes after Britain, goes after Putin. This is what I mean. These people who claim to be MAGA and claim to represent, they're on the opposite sides of Donald Trump. Completely opposite side. In so many respects. I don't know where to begin here. Mr. Producer did a good job of pulling these clips together. Well, let's start here. Here's the president at the UN this morning. Cut 5. Go.
As everyone knows, I have also been deeply engaged in seeking a ceasefire in Gaza. Have to get that done. Have to get it done. Unfortunately, Hamas has repeatedly rejected reasonable offers to make peace. We can't forget October 7th, can we? Now, as if to encourage continued conflict, some of this body is seeking to unilaterally recognize a Palestinian state. The rewards would be too great for Hamas terrorists for their atrocities. This would be a reward for these horrible atrocities, including October 7th, even while they refuse to release the hostages or accept a ceasefire. Instead of giving to Hamas and giving so much, because they've taken so much, they have taken so much. This could have been solved so long ago. But instead of giving in to Hamas's ransom demands, those who want peace should be united with one message: release the hostages now. Just release the hostages now.
When's the last time you've heard the phony influencers say that? They never say it. They don't even believe it. They don't even spend time on it. Instead, they trash Netanyahu and Israel, and directly and indirectly the President of the United States. These are his policies. His policy. He doesn't have to be persuaded of his policies. He knows what his policies are. Crazy. President in the Oval Office on Friday. The usual questions. Listen carefully. Cut 9, go.
On Gaza, the UN concluded this week that Israel committed genocide in Gaza. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I haven't seen that. I'm looking at it, but did anybody commit genocide on October 7th? What do you think about that? That was genocide at the highest level. That was murder, genocide, you can call it whatever you want. But little babies were chopped in half. Arms were cut off people, heads were cut off people. That's genocide. That's genocide also, I guess, right?
And how many of the phony influencers, the fake MAGA, have looked at that 40-some minute video? None of them. Not one of them. Not one of them. And they disagree with the president on this, too. Now, the president of the United States and the UK last Thursday, with this quizzling of a phony prime minister, this guy Starmer, hated by his people, He's got like 15% or less popularity. Destroying his country with this rampant immigration. Islamists pouring into people who've been to London. I haven't been to London in a long time. But when we used to go to London, it was beautiful. You could walk at 3 in the morning. I'm told it's completely different. It looks like the third world, and you take your life into your own hands. This is what I'm told. Shocking. And I posted some. You have some white Christian Brits saying, what's happened to our country? Those people are carrying a Palestinian flag, and they're arrested on the spot. Did you see that, Mr. Producer? They're arrested on the spot for incitement. On the spot. I forget that the guy's name, Tommy Robinson. Isn't he one of the leaders of this nationalist movement in Britain? They try and turn this man into a racist. He's not a racist. He's trying to defend his country, its culture. You got people coming into Britain, like in the United States, like into France, like into most of Europe, like into Canada, who seek to destroy the Western culture and replace it. Not assimilate into it, but to destroy it. That's what they're doing. And we see it with our own eyes. We hear it with our own ears. I've been posting like a madman the last week or so you could see the worst of the worst. As far as we know, it's the worst of the worst. It's stunning. Just like when Biden was staring into space or bumping his head and then, no, don't believe your eyes. That's all. That's what the media wants you to believe now. That's what these phony, fake MAGA podcasters want you to believe. They don't even talk about this stuff. They don't even criticize it because many of them are on the payroll. That's why. That's right, I said it. Or their friends are on the payroll. That's right. Or they had loans or business deals subsidized or saved by the states that promote this Islamism. Check it out yourself. You don't have to rely on me. Go ahead. Take a look. Enjoy. This guy Starmer. There's the President of the United States. Again, making a definitive, unequivocal statement that some people in his own administration don't agree with. That these fraudulent, grifter, so-called influencers certainly don't agree with because they never talk about it. And they're never going to. Instead, America sucks, Jews suck, most Christians suck because they don't practice their faith like we do. These are sick people, you understand. Cut 10, go.
We have to remember October 7th, one of the worst, most violent days in the history of the world.
Because he looked at that video. He looked at it. That was pieced together from those cameras that these barbarians, these subhumans, had on their heads and were carrying with them. As they gang raped, as they butchered, as they tortured, as they decapitated, as they burned people alive, as they did all these things, he saw it. Our networks won't play them. It's so bad. But they should. If you don't want to watch, then don't watch. They should play it. They should play it. Instead, we get phony pictures on the New York Times and the Guardian and the rest of the Al Jazeera Western press. Go ahead.
Well, then I got to see the tapes, and I wish I didn't see them, actually. But I got to see them. And I want an end. I want the hostages released. And I think it's going to be okay. But it has been a brutal period of time. But this has been going on for a long time. This is not something that's over the last year, 2 years. But this has been for decades and decades. But we want it to end. We have to have the hostages back immediately. That's what the people of Israel want. They want them back. And we want the fighting to stop. And it's going to stop. But A lot of bad things. You know, Hamas said that they're going to put the hostages up as bait. They're going to put the hostages in front of any attack. And that's pretty brutal. We haven't heard that one in a long time. So we have to remember that. So I have a disagreement with the Prime Minister on that score. Okay? One of our few disagreements, actually.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Is he an Israel firster, Mr. Producer? No, his father was a huge friend of the Jews in New York City. His father gave a Jewish community, their Orthodox Jews who were looking for a place, trying to afford a place to build a synagogue. And his father, Fred, gave them a facility, charged them $1 on the contract to make it legal. That synagogue is still there in his honor. He didn't want any big placards or anything else. That was his father. His father and Donald Trump grew up among, obviously, Gentiles, but also Jews, close friends. They understood that they didn't have horns and long tails. He had many friends, as his father did, in the Jewish community, many. And he has them today. He's nothing like these fraudsters, these phonies, these buffoons who give aid and comfort to the enemy of the United States. The enemy of the United States. Nothing like them. This is what he has said. And they disagree with him. And you can't love Donald Trump and love these people too. It's not possible. They speak out of both sides of their mouths. If they had different types of mouths, they'd be speaking out of 10 sides of their mouths. In fact, they talk out of their ass, quite frankly. Peter Doocy to this guy, Starmer. He's not long for this prime ministership. I was talking about this fella, Tommy Robinson, who led like 1 million-person march last week in the streets of London. Because the people there have had enough of the Islamists. They've had enough of the Marxists. They've had enough of them. They've had enough of the Talib types, of the Bernie Sanders types, the Tucker Carlson types, the Candace Owens types. They want none of it. None of it. Neither do I. Neither do you. They soil our great country. While this president is trying to make enormous, historic, iconic progress, these people undermine him. Peter Doocy puts it to this PM Starmer last Thursday. Cut 11, go.
If you feel so strongly about officially recognizing Palestine for statehood, why are you waiting for President Trump to leave the country? Why can't you just do it right now? And isn't there a risk in rewarding Hamas with that?
Well, let me be really clear about Hamas. They're a terrorist organization who can have no part in any future governance in Palestine. And what happened on October the 7th?
So President Trump laughs and pats him on the back. Did you see that, Mr. Producer? Like, okay, you got your propaganda down, but that's not what you're doing. Then we have this guy, Aragon. I'm sure he'll be interviewed next by one of these phony influencers, grifters, because he's an Islamist. And he's in NATO. Brett Barron asked him a very good question. Cut 13, go.
Do you see Hamas as a terrorist organization? About 20 years ago, when I traveled to the United States, they asked me this question again, and I said this back then. I don't see Hamas as a terrorist organization.
All right, good enough. That's enough. He rambles on. This is a man who destroyed the Turkish democracy. He destroyed their parliament, who took out last week the mayor of Istanbul, who was standing up to him, challenging him, part of the opposition, took him away, accused him of corruption. This is what he does to mayors who don't agree with him, This is what he does to other politicians who don't disagree with him. You may have heard this word, disappear them, that the left likes to use when ICE does the right thing, but this guy really does disappear them. They disappear, never to be seen again. He's a killer. He's been trying to slaughter the Kurds. He's behind the Syrian efforts, ready for this, to murder the Christians. How come Syria, slaughtering the minority population of Christians in Syria, gets no mention by any of these fraudulent influencers? Nothing. They say nothing. When the Israelis are going in trying to protect them, and they're the only ones. In fact, we have an envoy, guy Thomas Barrett. I think that's his name. Barack, I apologize. Yeah, everybody's named Barack. Thomas Barack. He's detestable. He's horrendous. To defend Syria. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
When was the last time you bragged about your wireless company? Like, did you know my wireless company gave away 1,000 American flags to deserving vets and forgave $10 million in veteran debt? Did you know my wireless company raised almost $500,000 to help prevent veteran suicide? In other words, when your wireless company is Pure Talk, there's a whole lot to brag about. You can even brag about the coverage you get with Pure Talk, a 5G network that is insanely fast, dependable, and secure. And you can definitely brag about how much money you save with Pure Talk. Unlimited talk, text, plenty of data. Just $25 a month, saving the average family over $1,000 a year. It's time to switch to my favorite wireless company, Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin and save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, puretalk.com/LEVIN. Make the switch today. Pure Talk, wireless worth bragging about. By the way, I meant to point out when I was talking about the bombing of the nuclear sites in Iran, and you notice how quiet they are. You notice how death to America is not being spewed. But anyway, it wasn't that Donald Trump supported my view. It's that I supported him, where the others did not. 92% of you, MAGA Republicans, supported what Donald Trump did. 92% of you. Does it get any higher than that, Mr. Producer? 92% of MAGA Republicans, you in this audience, backed what Donald Trump did, as did I. They did not. And that's where I have my disagreement with Charlie. But as gentlemen, he wasn't part of that pack. They're not gentlemen and gentle ladies over there. They're vicious and they're vile. That's what they are. That's what they are. But you know, Mr. Producer, I enjoy a good fight. I always have. Bring it on. Guess what? I'll be right back. When was the last time you bragged about your wireless company? Like, did you know my wireless company gave away 1,000 American flags to deserving vets and forgave $10 million in veteran debt? Did you know my wireless company raised almost $500,000 to help prevent veteran suicide? In other words, when your wireless company is Pure Talk, there's a whole lot to brag about. You can even brag about the coverage you get with Pure Talk, a 5G network that is insanely fast, dependable, and secure. And you can definitely brag about how much money you save with Pure Talk. Unlimited talk, text, plenty of data. Just $25 a month, saving the average family over $1,000 a year. It's time to switch to my favorite wireless company, Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin and save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, puretalk.com/LEVIN. Make the switch today. Pure Talk, wireless worth bragging about.
Liberty's voice, Mark Levin. Talk with that voice now. 877-381-3811.
Spent a lot of time going over a lot of stuff to get through all the crap in order to get, stuff for you. Let's see here. Let's keep moving. So here's this guy, Tommy Robinson, I was talking about. They call him a controversial British activist. Nothing controversial about the man. He speaks the truth. He's trying to defend his nation and its culture. Britain has a great culture. that's being conquered. This is what the radical Islamists, scholars, such as they were, wrote about in the 60s. To conquer the West through immigration. And they're doing it. It's not an accident. Tommy Robinson told the Jerusalem Post that he feels Israel is losing a diplomatic battle, but fears Iranian influence in the West. Again, you won't hear this from Carlson and his acolytes and the people who slobber all over him and follow him around. Isn't it weird? It's like a pack. These 5 or 6. They're like a pack. They show up everywhere together. And the way they write it here, Tommy Robinson has been a deeply divisive figure in British politics since the rise of the English Defence League in the 2010s. His detractors have labeled him a white supremacist and an Islamophobe, while his supporters have hailed him as the only person speaking truth to power over mass migration and radical Islam. So why is he an Islamophobe and a white supremacist? Because he wants to defend his country's culture? You can't take in this many people and assimilate them into your system, number one, when most of them don't want to be assimilated, and number two, when the institutions of your culture have been taken over by the radical left-wing Marxists who don't want them to assimilate them into your culture either because they hate your culture. This division is naturally stretched into the British Jewish community. Yet as the crisis of security for the British Jewish community is worse, and in particular since October 7, when anti-Semitism exploded across the UK, more and more British Jews have warmed to the formerly untouchable Tommy Robinson. I warmed to this guy. I've warmed to him a lot. Hi, honey.
Hi, how are you?
My wife, she goes out like 4 hours ago and runs 10 miles like it's nothing. I don't even think I drove 10 miles today, honey. How do you do this? You love it. And when you come back, you're in a great mood.
Absolutely.
So I say, run 30 miles then. Nah, she's the best. The Jerusalem Post sat down with Robinson following the Unite the Kingdom rally. And it's interesting, he's come to the defense of Israel and the Jews. He explained how earlier experiences witnessing the dangers of being Jewish in the United Kingdom gave him an understanding of the community's fear of violence. In one incident, he saw a Jewish family in Luton, his hometown, barricading themselves in the town hall following a racist attack. You know, we had Jews barricading themselves in cafeterias and dorm rooms and libraries, being assaulted. And you would think that this cabal of fake MAGA influencers would be concerned about this. No. Nope, they're on the side of the enemy. He also noted that following this incident, he began to notice that the students of the local Jewish school required additional police protection, which led him to wonder why this community needed special protection while other communities didn't. Robinson says his views on the Jewish community have led to accusations that he's an Israeli agent. Isn't that what I get, Rich? That I'm an Israeli agent. He should register with FARA. What do you mean I'm an Israeli agent? Sick. Sick. I think he's a Qatar agent. I think that one over there is an Iranian agent. I think that one over there is a Putin Russian agent. I think that one over there is just an a-hole, a schmuck who doesn't know what she's doing. Okay, I said what I had to say. He tied much of the police's failure to protect properly Jewish people to the same failure to protect women from grooming gangs of which his own relative was a victim. This is why when Robinson visited Israel shortly after the attack, he was shocked to see Jews and Arabs living side by side without violence inside Israel. He told us the idea that an openly Jewish family could have a picnic beside a large gathering of Arab men without incident was eye-opening. Only in Israel. Outside of Israel, the Jews would be murdered. That's the truth. And by the way, any Christian goes into these Palestinian areas, they are likely to come out. They are likely not to come out. You know who pointed that out? Charlie Kirk. In his view, the residents are intentionally being kept in poverty by the Palestinian Authority. This is a fact. In order to generate justification for further donations, which would then be stolen. He said that throughout his whole trip, the people in most connected with were those from the refugees camp who had been abandoned by the people meant to help them. Robinson feels Israel's losing the diplomatic battle. Losing the diplomatic battle. But laments that it is an uphill battle against Qatari and Iranian money, which is flooding into the West, infiltrating social media and academia. Now, how is it that this man says these things? I'm an Israeli, what is it? Whatever they call me, agent. But this man in Britain, who leads a massive movement to protect their country, he says he's accused of being an Israeli agent too, because that's what the Jew haters do. Tommy Robinson in Britain knows it. Mark Levin in the United States knows it. He sharply criticized so-called influencers. What's this guy, listen to my show, Rich? Who claimed they had converted to Islam as being part of the Qatari propaganda network designed to promote and spread Islam. Israel's losing the battle, he said, pointing to the conspiracy theories in the immediate aftermath of the murder of Charlie Kirk. They claimed Israel had assassinated him as evidence that anti-Semitism has become pervasive throughout the popular culture. Excuse me, cholera. Now, he's right, of course. He's right. He's not a radical. He's not an extremist. He's right. He has the guts to say it. Yep. Just unbelievable. Let's see. I'm not sure about this. I think after the break, I'll just alert people. You have the audio, Mr. Producer, of one of Charlie's big mentors recounting the effort to save his life on the way to the hospital. We do have that, right? It's not a secret. It's been played publicly. And I'd like to play it as well. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
When was the last time you bragged about your wireless company? Like, did you know my wireless company gave away 1,000 American flags to deserving vets and forgave $10 million in veteran debt? Did you know my wireless company raised almost $500,000 to help prevent veteran suicide? In other words, when your wireless company is Pure Talk, there's a whole lot to brag about. You can even brag about the coverage you get with Pure Talk, a 5G network that is insanely fast, dependable, and secure. And you can definitely brag about how much money you save with Pure Talk. Unlimited talk, text, plenty of data. Just $25 a month, saving the average family over $1,000 a year. It's time to switch to my favorite wireless company, Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin and save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, puretalk.com/LEVIN. Make the switch today. Pure Talk, wireless worth bragging about. I'm going to defend the Enlightenment, the Reformation, our founding, Judeo-Christian values, the Jewish faith, the Christian faith, other faiths that are of the same attitude and notion of humanity. I'm going to denounce Islamists, Marxists, the neo-Nazis, and the grifters, who are a little bit of all. All three, in my humble opinion, and probably something else, for all I know. They're not just on the right, by the way. They are sick bastards on the left. I'm just telling you. You should be demanding of talk show hosts that they start to speak out about this stuff and start to represent your values and your beliefs and your morality rather than hiding like a bunch of scared children. Don't you want hosts who are going to be out front on this? to defend your belief system? You should tell them. I shouldn't be the only one, or one of a handful, I suppose. I feel like I'm the only one. But we're going to change all that. You and me, we're going to change all this. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Let me ask you something. You worried about your money? You worried about the money in your bank? You worried about your pension money? You know, you should be. Democrats are going to shut down the government. Oh, yeah, they're hell-bent on shutting down the government unless Trump coughs up another $1.5 trillion. Now, they'll say, well, cut the tax cuts for the billion. That has nothing to do about cutting what was already, that is, eliminating what was already cut. These people are nuts. They're Marxists. That's what they are. I told you like a month ago, Mondami is not the base of the Democrat Party. He is the Democrat Party. There are almost no moderates left. Fetterman is like a reptile at the reptile house at the zoo. There are very few of them left. And these so-called liberals, they're not liberals. They're just not Marxist enough for the true believers. But that's where the party is. It's not the base, it's the party. It's what it is. And so they're going to shut down the government because we're not spending enough on illegal aliens who aren't even supposed to be here. Think about this. Think about this. So the American people should suffer, if they suffer at all, frankly, from this nonsense. But you get the point. In the name of the illegal alien. Jake Tapper labels Kimmel's suspension most direct infringement on free speech by government in his lifetime. It's because you're a moron. You're an idiot. There wasn't any government involvement at all. In fact, I say to my conservative friends who are acting like drama queens over this, why? There's no connection between what the chairman of the FCC said and what the market response was. He didn't do anything. He can't either. He's one commissioner. See how this works? Yeah, it's really quite remarkable. Jake Tapper labels Kimmel's suspension. Worst things ever. So there's the Biden regime that goes after parents for speaking at school board meetings, that goes after Catholics, calls them extremists, that go after pro-lifers, indict them and imprison them. Right? That put pressure on social media platforms to prevent people who disagree with the vaccines and so forth from having any place to comment on social media. You know, and we can go back to Franklin Roosevelt, the great Franklin Roosevelt, the greatest ever. He used the IRS to shut down the editorial pages of the Philadelphia Inquirer. Back then it was Republican and opposed him. And then went after the owner of the newspaper for tax fraud, put him in jail for a period of time. That's right. FDR, the great FDR. You know what else he did? Oh, let me tell you. Because Jake Tapper, you know, he doesn't know these things. Used to get a 2-year license for a radio station. Excuse me, cholera. 2-year license. Cut it to 6 months. You know why, Mr. Producer? Because he put a political hack in charge of the FCC, or whatever they called it back then, but I think it was the FCC that he created. So they wouldn't criticize him. Free speech, everybody. Free speech. Remember how many times they tried to destroy Rush Limbaugh and Sean and me? Remember how many times they tried to shut down conservative talk radio? Remember all that? The government? The Democrats? Oh, yeah. Remember those Democrats, those committee members in the House who sent letters to the cable platform companies like Comcast and all? What did they say? Drop Fox. Remember that? Oh, yeah. Do you remember a single left-wing host on any news outlet, network, cable, newspaper coming to the defense of any of us? No. No, Jimmy Kimmel. He's Rosa Parks. He's unbelievable. Yes, he's the great civil libertarian of our day. He's a fat slob punk Democrat with a vile attacks on people with whom he disagrees. He's not funny. He's another one who lectures us that demonstrates he's in the negative IQ area. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. The number is 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. I mentioned in the last hour that I wanted to play for you an audio of a gentleman who was a mentor to Charlie Kirk by the name of Frank Turek, Turek. I don't remember what podcast or radio show he was on, or I would tell you, but I want you to take a listen to somebody who went to the hospital with Charlie. I can't really get this out of my mind as I think about what he says, but go ahead.
We're cutting through intersections, we're just beeping the horn. This is not a emergency vehicle. There's no lights. There's none of this. And I go, we got to start CPR. So I try and start that. Now, Charlie wasn't there. His eyes were fixed. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking past me right into eternity. He was with Jesus already. He was killed instantly and felt absolutely no pain. That's what I was told later. But of course, we had to try. And by the way, there was just nothing any of us could do about it. We were giving him CPR, but nothing was happening. It wasn't like if we had better first aid or we had better medical facilities or we were faster to the hospital, we could have saved him. We couldn't. So if that's any comfort at all, Charlie didn't suffer. He was gone. He was with Jesus, absent from the body, present with the Lord.
That bullet hit the carotid artery right in the neck. I can't look at that video. People have described it. My wife saw it really by accident. It popped up on her screen, and she called me weeping, very upset. But apparently it was obvious. He grabbed it with his right hand, and that's the last bit of life that he had in him as he fell backwards. So this was a horrendous assassination, and I think this is part of what makes this so difficult, of course. It would be bad enough if it were a terrible disease or a car accident or something like that, but this was an assassination. And even though death came way too early, obviously, to a fantastic young person and friend, and even people who didn't know him felt he was their friend, the violence of it, the assassination of it is what's really stomach turning. And that's why what Jimmy Kimmel did was outrageous. And I would say this to some of my conservative friends who view this as an opportunity to prove their support of the First Amendment. Why don't you cut it out? It's nothing to do with the First Amendment. The government wasn't involved. The FCC commissioned it into a damn thing. The person who lost his free speech rights forever was Charlie Kirk. Not that phony, fraud, fake Jimmy Kimmel. There's no ratings. These guys act like they're immune. They work for a private company. They can fire them any time. It's nothing to do with free speech. Look, I can get fired at any time. I won't like it. But it's not a legal issue. It's not a constitutional issue. Well, it could be a legal issue. I do have a contract. But you get the point. I think most people do, but these guys beating their chests like they're civil libertarians for the First Amendment. No, you're not. Nothing to do with the First Amendment. Has nothing to do with free speech. I mean, you folks, you tried in your place of work. You know you wouldn't go to your place of work and just make some jackass horrific comment about something terrible that just happened. Your employer can fire you on the spot. Oh, they took my free speech away. No, that's not what's meant by free speech. You say whatever you want, of course, but your employer, that's their company, their business, and there's other employees. The reason Jimmy Kimmel is defended is because he's a left-wing kook Democrat. The same reason Colbert is defended. He's a left-wing kook Democrat. Doesn't matter that they lose millions and millions of dollars in audience. Doesn't matter. They have a right to be there to spew their BS. That's it. That's it. The Democrats want to shut us all down. All conservative voices. You better believe it. They're always trying to amend the First Amendment. Remember that? Always trying to amend the First Amendment. Then we have our friend CNN's Enton, the data man, Mr. Producer, right? And he's saying, you Democrats may have a problem. You Democrats may have a problem. Let's go to cut 19, Mr. Producer, the chief data analyst for the Constipated News Network. It's fitting. Harry Enton, cut 19, go.
Yeah, what are we seeing? You know, Donald Trump being underwater, Democrats saying, oh, this guarantees us we're going to fly high in the midterms. Let me tell you, this guarantees you nothing, because at this particular point, the Democrats are the New Orleans Saints of political parties. What are we talking about? Trust the Dems or GOP more on the economy? Who leads on the economy? Republicans by 7. Immigration, Republicans by 13. How about crime? A big issue for Donald Trump and the Republicans. Look at that. Lead by 22 points. So the bottom line is this. At this particular point, the ball may be on the ground, but the Democrats have not picked up the ball and running with it. If anything, at this particular point, it's the Republicans who are running with the ball on the top issues, the economy, immigration, and crime.
Give some context on this. Compare this when Republicans last took the House.
Yeah, let's compare it back to 2022. I think this kind of gives away the game right here. Okay, the GOP is more trusted than the Dems on the economy. It was 12 points in 2022. Slight decline in that lead, but still 7 points. How about immigration? It was Republicans by 3 back in 2022. Look at this. The Republican lead's actually gone up by 10 points. What are you doing, Democrats? My goodness gracious. And on crime, the Republicans were up by 13, and now they're up by 22. The lead, again, expanding by nearly double digits. So whatever Democrats are doing, it ain't working, Kate. It ain't working. Republicans have the lead on all 3 issues.
What's the reason that you are finding so far that's driving this?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's all about the center of the electorate, right? You win with independents, you win overall. And what do we see right here among independents? Republicans still have a point lead on the economy. They got a 10-point lead on immigration. They got a 21-point lead on crime. The bottom line is, when you look at these numbers, Democrats should call their offices, because at this particular point, even if Republicans, or even if the public doesn't like what Donald Trump is doing, they ain't necessarily liking what Democrats are doing. And it ain't just a referendum on one party. You actually have to go out and beat that party. At this particular point, Democrats are not able to beat Republicans. They still
and again, this isn't as Donald Trump came into office. These are numbers from this month.
These are numbers from September of 2020. We still find that the Republicans leading on all 3 of these issues. And of course, this economy will be the key. If Democrats are going to win, they're going to have to likely win on the economy. At this particular point among independents, you see that 1-point lead for Republicans. And overall, at least according to the Washington Post, they hold a 7-point lead on the economy overall.
Holy mackerel. Whatever that means. Holy mackerel. But I would encourage the Republicans, always run like you're behind. Run with your behind, but run like you're behind, like you're losing. Always. And if you embrace these neo-Nazis, these phony influencers, the grifters, you embrace it, you're going to get wiped out. You just are. So don't. And I know most of you don't. I know the vast majority of these candidates don't. Most don't. But don't plot for them. Don't be near them. Don't invite them on as guests. Because you're going to have a lot of explaining to do at some point. No question about it. You'll go down with that ship. because that ship's going down. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Bill O'Reilly has another great book out. Confronting Evil, Assessing the Worst of the Worst. Boy, the timing of this is perfect. And it is a compelling, intriguing book, as all of Bill's books are. Bill, how are you, my friend?
You know, I'm hanging tough. You're right. It's a disturbing time in this country. And we're fighting a good fight here, Levin, as you are as well.
Now, but this book, I mean, I learned things about some of these bastards I didn't know before. As you went through this book, I mean, this is a weird question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Who's the worst of these guys? And tell everybody, number one, why you wrote this book at this time. And number two, who do you consider the worst? Or are they just all so bad?
The book came out on September 9th. The next day, Putin lobbed missiles into Poland. And 4 hours later, Charlie Kirk was assassinated. One of the interviewers said to me, this book is eerie. The timing of the book is eerie. About a year ago, I was casting around for a second confronting book. The first one was Confronting Presidents. And I noticed that evil was on the rise in the world and in the United States, somewhat like the beginning of the 1930s after the Great Depression. Not at that level, but you could see it almost everywhere. And people were looking away as they did in the 1930s, and that led to World War II, 100 million dead. Putin is on the cover of the book, along with the Ayatollah Khomeini, Mao Zedong, and Adolf Hitler. Mao Zedong is the worst mass murderer who's ever lived, and that's saying something when you got Genghis Khan, Hitler, and Stalin, in the lineup. So the Chinese communist dictator was off the chart. But I wrote the book as a warning to Americans in particular, and that's why the timing of the book, it still stuns me. We can't continue to look away. We have to say to ourselves, there is a right and a wrong. And I'm going to be on the side of right. If you do not do that, evil is going to become more and more powerful.
Mm-hmm. You know, let's bring it home here. You have a chapter on the Klan and Nathan Bedford Forrest. Tell us about that.
Well, the Klan started after the Civil War. Nathan Bedford Forrest is a Confederate general who massacred 500 people, many of them blacks who were fighting on the side of the Union at Fort Pillow in Tennessee. Just shot them down. They surrendered. They had their hands up. And Forrest ordered his Confederate troops to just mow them down. After the war was over, he started the Ku Klux Klan in South Carolina, and it terrorized blacks for decades. Here's something very interesting that I haven't said, but you'll appreciate it being a constitutional guy. The only reason the Klan was defeated was because when U.S. Grant became president, he ordered federal troops to South Carolina to quote-unquote suppress the Klan. But they didn't take any prisoners. They killed them all. And that broke the back of the Klan. Today, Donald Trump wants to send federal troops to stop the violence in Chicago, L.A., Memphis, on and on. It's the same dictum, the same thing. And if it does get to the Supreme Court, that is going to be the main argument, that there is precedent for a president calling out a public safety emergency and using federal troops within state lines. That is the Nathan Bedford Forrest thing. Every one of the 15 miscreants that I profile is relevant to today. Mm-hmm. It's not a straight history book. Every one of them has affected our lives today.
Another interesting, they're all interesting in a sick way, but another interesting chapter is King Henry VIII. What a vile human being he was. Tell us a little bit.
Okay, so I've got Episcopalian friends. I'm a Catholic. And, you know, if I want to give them some jazz, which I often do because that's my personality, as you know, I say, hey, how's the leader of your church doing, Henry VIII? How's he doing? Because Henry VIII separated from the Pope and started his own religion, Anglicanism in the British Isles. That led to centuries of brutal fighting in the UK, and it goes on to this day in Ireland between Catholics and Protestants, and it spread to the European continent, where millions and millions of people were killed in religious wars. It all started with Henry VIII, and then the personal evil, two types of evil. There's the mass evil and personal evil, like the assassin of Charlie Kirk. That's personal evil. Well, Henry VIII was beheading his wives, his best friend, Thomas More. I mean, this guy was off the chart. So, you know, whenever I write a book, and we're the best-selling nonfiction authors in the world, it'll open at number 1 on the New York Times list on
Good
Sunday.
for you. I saw that.
Confronting Evil, yeah. And before you leave me, I have a question for you that's an important question. So just bear with me. I don't know how much time you have for the segment, but I do have an important question.
Well, we'll
for
do
you.
2 segments.
Okay, that'd be great. And it does deal with Kimmel, who's on tonight. The question I have for you. But anyway, Americans, I think, are now focused on evil because of Charlie Kirk. That the people who did not pay attention would not pay attention. Now we're forced to look and see. That is a turning point, pardon the pun, in this country. And I think it will be a significant turning point.
I hope, and I think you're right. Very, very important. Let me go to this. Joseph Stalin. You write about him very extensively. Let me ask you this. Do you see Stalin and Putin in any respect?
Well, Putin, his idol is Stalin. Always has been. So what we did with Putin was, Putin is a psychopath, which makes Trump's job in Ukraine very difficult. Because Putin wasn't that far gone the first 4 years that Trump was in office. But evil always degenerates. It always gets worse. It's a malady. And Putin has gotten a lot worse than he was. And now Putin is irrational. And you add to that, he enjoys killing civilians. He enjoys lobbing missiles and drones at hospitals. He likes it. It's like Hamas. I opened the book with the October 7th attack in Israel, and I wanted to open it there to put everybody in that town so they knew exactly what kind of evil I was writing about. That's the introduction to the book. Putin has always idolized Stalin, who was an incredible mass murderer, as everybody knows.
Folks, this is a great book. Confronting Evil, Assessing the Worst of the Worst. You're going to really be intrigued by it. It's our friend Bill O'Reilly. You can get it at Amazon.com during the break. I encourage you to do it. It's going to be number 1 on the New York Times bestseller list, as it should be. So grab your copy. Confronting Evil. We'll be right back with our friend Bill O'Reilly.
Mark Levin, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
Welcome back, America. We're here with Bill O'Reilly. The book is Confronting Evil, Assessing the Worst of the Worst. You're going to be fascinated by this book. You can get it at Amazon.com right now. Any major retail outlet. It's number 1, so it'll be very beautifully discounted, which is what they do when they want to move books, because quantity is what they care about in the bookstores, not so much quality, but it doesn't matter to us. The book, again, is Confronting Evil. Bill O'Reilly, first of all, you had a question for me about Kimmel, was it?
Yeah. Okay. So tonight Kimmel comes back, and the left-wing press has made him out to be a freedom of speech martyr.
Yeah.
And they've been successful in doing that because there are 5 major television outlets, along with all the urban newspapers, that pick up the same theme. Mm-hmm. So Kimmel, it wasn't that he was wildly inappropriate and he was inaccurate, blaming MAGA for participation in the Kirk assassination. It wasn't any of that. It was he paid a price for it, so therefore it's a violation of freedom of speech. Mm-hmm. Okay, a few facts here before I get to my question for you. So Jimmy Kimmel in the last 3 years has not put on one non-liberal voice on his program. Not one. The 5 left-wing networks, CBS, NBC, ABC, MS, and CNN, have put on 98% left-wing voices. 98% in ever since Trump got into the political arena. So I had you on my program to talk about your bestseller on power a few weeks ago. And before that, you had another bestseller, number 1, American Marxism. So here's my question to you, Levin. Are you ready for the question?
Hold on now. Got my thinking cap on.
Did you get any invitations from the networks
to
be on there, talk about those books?
No, and you're making a great point, which is, hey, what about freedom of speech being attacked by the failure to allow people to be heard? It's a very good point. But here's the thing, Bill, and it is a great point because it underscores the point, which is this. First of all, the government wasn't involved. This FCC chairman, whatever he said, was irrelevant. What happened was there was a big reaction by viewers, all 7 of them, who didn't like it. And so ABC pulled them, and the affiliate companies, like Sinclair, they say, we're not running this. So it was a market. It wasn't the government. It wasn't like the Biden administration putting out memos, the Department of Justice, to go after parents at school board meetings, or to arrest protesters at abortion clinics who are even silently protesting, or to go after the Catholic Church, which they also did. That's all a violation of free speech and the First Amendment. So the First Amendment's not involved, number 1, because there is no government involvement. Number 2, what about free speech? It depends. I can't go on this radio show, start screaming whatever the hell I want to without being punished. I mean, we can say a lot, Bill. We can say a lot on these radio stations and so forth, but there are lines that are drawn. Everybody listening, you can't go into your place of work and just start saying whatever the hell you want, and when the employer says, all right, you're out of here, excuse me, my free speech rights, it has nothing to do with it. And the point that Bill O'Reilly is mentioning here is these people don't believe in free speech. They believe in propaganda. And that's why they went nuts over Kimmel. It had nothing to do. They never have, Bill, have they ever had you on?
Before Trump got into the arena, I was on Kimmel 5 times, Letterman 20 times, The View 20 times, every blanking news program you can imagine. But once Trump got into politics, that blackout descended on all of the television operations except for Fox. Imagine if you didn't have Fox, then you'd have an across-the-board blackout of any non-liberal voice. That's what they succeeded to do. And there's just anybody on the left, they're signing these stupid petitions in Hollywood and all that stuff. They don't care about banishment of an entire point of view. 77 million people voted for Trump. They don't care if those people can't get a representative on any of these 5. Look, I asked Anderson Cooper, who's desperately in need of ratings. I said, hey, I've known this guy for decades. Why don't you just put me on? Number 1, I'll bring big ratings. Number 2, it's a good book, and it's pertinent to today. Forget it. Won't do it. Blackout across the board. It's so hypocritical, and it just makes me furious that this is the real violation of freedom of expression. You don't have any expression. And who does that? Putin. Xi. All the totalitarians. That's what they do. Yet Jimmy Kimmel is the martyr?
Yeah, that's crazy. No, you're right. And for instance,
I mean, this is crazy.
If Kamala Harris would come on this program tomorrow, I'd take her in 2 seconds.
Sure. And I do that all the time. I look for the smartest liberal voices I can find because that is a good debate.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And all of us on radio and television, we're not exclusionary. Hannity puts on people all the time from the opposing camps.
I can't get them,
Newsom, all that. You never see it on the other side. And the reason that Kimmel got put back on the air is because the Hollywood talent agencies called Disney and said, we're not doing business with you. You're not going to get writers, producers, actors. You're not going to get anything from us until you put them back. That's why he got put back.
That's their base. You're 100% right. Well, folks, you're going to love Bill's book. We're not going to squelch any speech here. Confronting Evil, Assessing the Worst of the Worst. He's had tremendous books, great books. This is one of his best for sure. I want you to grab this book, Amazon.com. Any retail store will have them, bookstores and others. Again, Amazon.com, Confronting Evil. Congratulations, Bill. Another great book. Seriously, it's really a good book.
Thank you for having me in, Mark, and thanks for reading it. You know, most interviewers say, well, tell me about your book, but you actually read it, and I appreciate it very much.
No, I love this book. I like it when you send it to me like 2 months ago or whatever it was, 7 weeks ago, so I have time to really look into it. It's really good. Thank you, my friend. You take care of yourself.
You too.
Grab this book, folks. You're going to love this book. I'm telling you. I only bring on authors here who I trust and who write good books. I insist on getting them early and reading them as much as I can. I've been reading this one this summer. You're going to love it. Confronting Evil, Assessing the Worst of the Worst. He's debuting #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. And trust me when I tell you, for Bill O'Reilly or Mark Levin, that's very hard because they don't want to give it to us. And you might say, well, it's the New York Times. Yeah. And when a conservative's #1 on the New York Times bestseller list, we smile too. It's a great thing. So you're going to really like this book. I encourage you to get it. And he's a good guy. He really is a good guy. I like him a lot. Well, Mr. Producer, do we have any callers tonight? Hold on. I got to get in my Yes, we do. Been a long time. I know it. Oh, we're loaded. I don't mean that way. All right, let's see. Let's go to Chuck, Cincinnati, Ohio, the great WKRC. Chuck, go right ahead, please.
Well, first of all, Mark, I want to say thanks a lot for pointing out the Bill O'Reilly book. I'm going to have to check that out. I really appreciate your take on that book. And I got to say, the Jimmy Kimmel thing, I'll tell you what, I just cannot stand the guy myself. I mean, I actually forced myself to sit down and watch 5 minutes of the guy. I just can't. I can't even crack a grin. I just don't.
He's not funny. He does a lousy interview. That's why he has no ratings. He sucks. And so they turn him into this free speech martyr, which is ridiculous. All right. I have wowed him with my genius. Thank you, Chuck. Cindy, Kernersville, North Carolina, on the Mark Levin app. Go right ahead, please.
Thank you, Mark. I hope you're doing well after your trip to Israel. I'm envious.
Doing great.
That's one place I've always wanted to go.
Everybody should. The Holy Land's right there, and you're going to see where Jesus walked, and you can walk exactly where he walked. It's fascinating.
Imagine. I could not imagine what a life-changing experience that would be. I really could not. And I'm a Christian, and I support Christians and Jews, and, you know, it would just mean so much to me to be able to do that. Well, you know, God made me a good lady, Mark. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that I wanted to just point out, and I know it falls on deaf ears on the left, regarding any freedom of speech issue with this Jimmy Kimmel thing, is that the supporters of today's Democrat Party in the United States, do they not realize that their freedom of speech could be silenced with a bullet to their head if the Democrats ever get back in party?
Well, I don't think they think that far ahead. I'll be perfectly honest with you. And the Democrat Party, I did write a book, The Democrat Party Hates America. Now, that doesn't mean they want to assassinate everybody, but I'm saying it is a very violent, evil party from slavery forward, segregation, Jim Crow, eugenics, all these radical movements in the 1960s. It's a very, very violent party. There's no question about it. And, I mean, FDR in 1940 wouldn't even sign an anti-federal lynching bill because he was worried he'd lose votes in the South. I mean, this is what we're talking about. So, and you hear Bill O'Reilly talk about the Confederate general who started the Klan as a Democrat. But we can go down the list. There are some Republicans, but there's a lot of Democrats throughout our history. Just a very violent ideology and grouping of individuals. But again, that doesn't mean people are going to run around from that party and assassinate people as a matter of policy. But the things they say and the way they say it, and then they pretend it's free speech. When the man that he was talking about, Charlie Kirk, even though he didn't attack Kirk personally, but he attacked the people who support Kirk, he lied. When Charlie Kirk's free speech went with Charlie Kirk is really a sickening irony, don't you think? It's just disgusting. All right, my friend, thank you very much for your call. Much appreciated. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
You know, I like to play Charlie Kirk in his own words, whether it's my interviews with him or things he said on the college campuses or elsewhere. Here he is last month, just last month, regarding Candace Owens. You can fill in a blank. It might as well be Tucker Carlson and so forth. Cut 21, go.
I had a quick question about anti-Semitism online. Another question here they asked about Candace Owens, and, you know, I'm a big fan of you. I was a big fan of her. But she's obviously been going down this anti-Semitic bent. And through her, I'm kind of finding out about these other characters online, like Nick, for instance. I'm sure you've heard of him. And these people, they've been active for a long time, and it seems like they've just been ignored, which is working, but now they're kind of surging in popularity. And as someone who, I enjoy watching your debates, are they people you'd be willing to engage with and maybe shut them down in a way through a debate or something like that?
Well, I mean, I'll get to debate Candace. But no, look, I'll debate anybody that shows up at our campus, and that's first and foremost. But I do want to take what you say and extrapolate it, that there is a corner of the internet of people that want to point and blame the Jews for all their problems. Everybody, this is demonic and it's from the pit of hell, and it should not be tolerated, period. But it goes to a structural problem of an entire generation that has economic resentment. They don't own anything. They're not getting married. They're not having children. They're depressed. They're anxious. They're staring at their screens all day long. And if all of a sudden your extrapolation of all that is, well, it's the Jews' fault, that is sloppy and shallow thinking. And not only that, they say, oh, it's the Jews' fault. Okay, let's kind of play this out. Well, tuberculosis, that used to kill about 1 billion people. You know, it's a group of Jewish scientists that came up with the antibiotic that cured tuberculosis. How about CPR, the MRI machine? You know, there's over 500 million lives that were saved over the last 50 years because of people that were Jewish scientists that were working on things. They'll never say thank you to the Jews, but they'll always say shame on the Jews. Weird how that works. And finally, they always blame the Jews for stuff. Jewish people are an ethnicity. So therefore, definitionally, you have people that are secular, orthodox, religious, that are all over the spectrum. You're trying to blame an entire ethnicity for a singular problem. Hold on, let's take a step back here. Instead of that, what could you possibly do in your own personal life to improve your own state of being? If you are blaming 0.02% of the world's population for all of your problems, that is not going to be good for your soul. It's not good for your psychology. It's not good for your future in any way, shape, or form. And so I would just say this, that any young person that goes into this hyper-online brain rot, you are serving yourself over to your own demise. You are serving yourself into a suicide mission that will not make you happier and not make you healthier. Instead,
this is why he and I were friends. This is why he was such a remarkable young man. You will never hear these words out of the mouths of a Tucker Carlson, of a Megyn Kelly, of a Bannon, and their ilk. Never. If I'm wrong, they can do it tomorrow. Let's hear it. But I'm not wrong. It's a pleasure to be back. I missed you, my radio family. God bless each and every one of you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.